By a demoniacal art, a junior uncle and an elder brother's wife, Pao Yi and Lady Feng, come across 5 devils. The gem of spiritual perception meets, in a fit of torpor, the 2 perfect men. Xiao Heng, the story continues, was much unsettled in her mind. Her thoughts rolled on in one connected string. But suddenly, she became drowsy, and, falling asleep, she encountered Gea Yen, who tried to carry out his intention to drag her near him. She twisted herself round and endeavored to run away, but was tripped over by the doorstep. This gave her such a start that she woke up. Then, at length, she realized that it was only a dream. But so restlessly did she, in consequence of this fright, keep on rolling and tossing that she could not close her eyes during the whole night. As soon as the light of the next day dawned, she got up. Several waiting maids came at once to tell her to go and sweep the floor of the rooms and to bring water to wash the face with. Xiao Heng didn't even wait to arrange her hair or perform her ablutions, but turning towards the looking-glass, she pinned her chevalier up anyhow, and rinsing her hands and tying a sash around her waist, she repaired directly to sweep the apartments. Who would have thought it? Pao Yi also had set his heart on her the moment he caught sight of her the previous day. Yet, he feared in the first place that if he mentioned her name and called her over into his service, Si Ren and the other girls might feel the pangs of jealousy. He did not, either, in the second place, have any idea what her disposition was like. The consequence was that he felt downcast, so much so that when he got up at an early hour, he did not even comb his hair or wash, but simply remained seated and brooded in a state of abstraction. After a while, he lowered the window. Through the gauze frame from which he could distinctly discern what was going on outside, he espied several servant girls engaged in sweeping the court. All of them were rouged and powdered. They had flowers inserted in their hair and were grandly got up. But the only one of whom he failed to get a glimpse was the girl he had met the day before. Pao Yi speedily walked out of the door with slipshod shoes. Under the pretense of admiring the flowers, he glanced now towards the east, now towards the west. But upon raising his head, he descried, in the southwest corner, someone or other leaning by the side of the railing under the covered passage. A crab-apple tree, however, obstructed the view, and he could not see distinctly who it was. So, advancing a step further in, he stared with intent gaze. It was, in fact, the waiting maid of the day before, tarrying about plunged in a reverie. His wish was to go forward and meet her, but he did not, on the other hand, see how he could very well do so. Just as he was cogitating within himself, he of a sudden perceived Bai Heng come and ask him to go and wash his face. This reminder placed him under the necessity of betaking himself into his room. But we will leave him there without further details so as to return to Xiao Heng. She was communing with her own thoughts, but unawares, perceiving Si Ren wave her hand and call her by name, she had to walk up to her. "Our watering pot is spoiled," Si Ren smiled and said, "so go to Miss Lin's over there and find one for us to use." Xiao Heng hurried on her way towards the Xiao Hong Quan. When she got as far as the Tsui Wiren Bridge, she saw, on raising her head and looking around, the mounds and lofty places entirely shut in by screens, and she bethought herself that laborers were that day to plant trees in that particular locality. At a great distance off, A band of men were indeed engaged in digging up the soil, while Sao Hen was seated on a boulder on the hill, superintending the works. The time came for her to pass by, but she could not muster the courage to do so. Nevertheless, she had no other course but to proceed quietly to Xiao Hongquen. Then, getting the watering pot, she sped on her way again. But, being in low spirits, she retired alone into her room and lay herself down. One and all simply maintained that she was out of sorts, so they did not pay any heed to her. A day went by. On the morrow fell, in fact, the anniversary of the birth of Wang Zhu-Tang's wife, and someone was sent from his residence to come and invite Dowager Lady Jia and Madame Wang. Madame Wang found out, however, that Dowager Lady Jia would not avail herself of the invitation, and neither would she go. So Mrs. He went along with Lady Feng and the three sisters of the Gaya family, and Pao Sheng and Pao Yi, and only returned home late in the evening. Madame Wang was sitting in Mrs. Hu's apartments, whither she had just crossed, when she perceived Gaya Huan come back from school, and she bade him transcribe incantations out of the Qinggang canon and intonate them. Gaya Huan accordingly came and sat himself on the stove coach occupied by Madame Wang, and directing a servant to light the candles, he started copying in an ostentatious and dashing manner. Now he called for Xian Zia to pour a cup of tea for him. Now he asked for Yu Quan to take the scissors and cut the snuff of the wick. "Qin Chuan, you're in the way of the rays of the lamp," he cried. The servant girls had all along entertained an antipathy for him, so none of them troubled her mind about what he said. Kaizia was the only one who still got on well with him, so pouring a cup of tea, she handed it to him. But she felt prompted to whisper to him, "Keep quiet a bit. What's the use of making people dislike you?"